How's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to be taking a look at installing ISE 2.2. Now, I downloaded the OVA file from Cisco.com, and the cool thing about it is it's an eval copy. So I don't know if you would need to have a service account associated to your CCO ID. I do. You may not. It's one of those things you'd have to check. But for those of you that have the ability to download ISE, I downloaded ISE 2.2. The CCI Security Lab, the version, when you look at the operating systems and the versions that you're going to be working with the platforms and whatnot, it says ISE 2.1. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I figure ISE 2.2, if I learned that, I figure I should be okay. So I don't really care for ISE 2.3, and I know it's a couple revisions back now. I think ISE 2.5 or 6 is out by now. But I'm going to be showing you how to install ISE 2.2 via the OVA. Now, literally, I just downloaded the OVA. And one of the things that it's not, if you read through the release notes and whatnot, there's a couple of Cisco live videos that I watch when it comes to ISE. One thing that they keep making sure that they bring up is do not modify any of the variables for the virtual machine. So if you, I've worked with some organizations where they like to remove CPU and memory reservations from a virtual machine so that there's no constraints, and you might have in times of congestion where they can with the reservation in place, you won't be able to give those resources to another device. But so just don't mess with any of the settings. Whatever the OVA settings are set to, leave them alone. Now it is a pretty beefy box, so it's 16 gigs of RAM. If you notice that right there, the ISO file is about half the size, ish, maybe a little bit bigger than half the size. This is about 12 gigs. So unless you've got a pretty fast network, it's gonna take a little while to roll out. So I've already got it to the point where it's deployed. So as you can see, the virtual machine has been rolled out, and we're good to go. We're at the point now where it's actually booted up. And if I bring this over, you can see where it says, please type setup to configure the appliance. There is no login information. So at this point in time, I would type in setup and hit the enter key. Now it's going to go through the process of what do you need to do in order to get it to work. So the first thing I'm going to type in here is ISE1, because that's the name of the virtual machine. Because I plan on having probably two or three, I might even go 4 ISE nodes. You might say, well, why do you need so many? Well, it's not that I have to have them. It's more, okay, if I have, if you read the, if you have any idea of how ISE works, there's there's an architecture associated with the platform. So there's going to be you have the policy PSN, policy services node, if I'm not mistaken. There's a policy administration node. I could be wrong on the actual what the acronym to the word mapping is. I don't remember off the top of my head, to be honest with you. It really doesn't matter to me at this point. What matters is that there are multiple node types. You've got one that is in charge of them all, which is the administration node. Then you have some like service nodes, which are going to be the nodes that are going to be actually interacting between your firewall, your switches, and your routers and your wireless controllers back to an ISE node. So I plan on rolling out 1 or 2 of them. And then you have the monitoring and troubleshooting node, which is normally where you're going to be sending all your log files. So depending on how you roll it out, that's going to be one of those things that I will eventually do that to scale it, just to show what that would look like. But right now, I'm just deploying one node right now. As you can see in the background, I have a couple of ASAs, a couple of CSRs. I have Call Manager rolled out, as well as a PC and a server. I did that because I was having a hard time getting some stuff to work inside of Eve as I was going through the process. Now, I haven't tried rolling out ISE inside of Eve where I didn't follow the instructions on the EVE website, but that'll be another video. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the enter key. The IP address of this guy is going to be 10.255.1. And I'm going to say 100. I don't think there's anything on that subnet because once I deployed, there we go. Once I deployed voice in my network, I actually went and did a couple of other. I've added some networks to it. Let's just go ahead and check. And that IP address is nothing's responding, which not a big deal. So /24 mask, and then 10.255.1.1. One thing that I do remember from doing this a few times in the past is anytime you change any of the networking attributes, or NTP, or I think that's it from what I can remember. The ISE services have to stop and restart. I don't know why. I honestly, to be honest, 100% honest with you, I think some of the things and the operations to how ISE works are a little retarded. But at the same point in time, I didn't develop the device, but because of the fact that I'm studying for my security CCIE, and I'm actually working on my NP security at the moment because I really want to dive into rounding out what I've learned about ISE so far, which is pretty much everything layer 2 authentication, from authenticating your endpoints, like your PCs and servers and stuff like that. I still need to do wireless authentication, layer 3 authentication, so on and so forth. So I want to round that out, and then I'm going to dive into WSA here in the near future. So do that. The default DNS domain, there isn't going to be one. Let's see. We'll type in lab.local. The primary name server is going to be 10.255.1.1, so it's going to be my home router. And then there isn't going to be a name server. That's fine for the time NTP. No, there will not be a. So the time zone, I'm in UTC -5 or 6. I think it's -6. So I'm going to type in America, Chicago, because there isn't one from Milwaukee. So, and yeah, I'll do SSH just so I can log into it and show you guys how to do some basic things like a backup and so on and so forth. Username should be admin, and in the password, I will enter a password of capital P, the @SSW0ORD. And now it's going to go ahead and create the first CLI user. It's going to bring up the network interfaces. And then once we're beyond this point, then we will have the ability to go in and pretty much do whatever else we need to do. So, yeah. Now, I've deployed ISE on this ESXi server in the past, and I've tried to connect to that ISE server with Google Chrome, and it was buggy. But if I install it on my other ESXi server, things aren't as buggy. So I will likely be using Firefox to interact with ISE. And so if you end up using Internet Explorer or you use Google Chrome, hey, whatever works for you. So that's pretty much what's up. At this point in time, it's just a lot of curious to see what the disk read write speeds look like, because I've moved to a new storage appliance in my home network. I use a QNAP storage appliance. Well, I must have sync with NTP server failed. Now here, I'm actually glad this happened. I've done this in the past a few times where I didn't have NTP working, and there is a way to change this. Actually, I would say no. Do you want to retry and just let it go, and it still installs? But I'll say yes for here, and then notice that the NTP service, it tries to ping time.nist.gov. Well, if we try to ping time.nist.gov, it looks like it's trying to ping it. Like there is a resolution, but the ping doesn't reply. So instead, if we ping 0.pool.ntp. I think that's what it is. Let me just double check real quick. Pull up google.com and type in NTP server, and I go to US pool. Yeah, that's what it is. So it is actually not this. It is 0.us.pool.ntp.org. That worked, and that responds. So now what I'll do is I will plug in that. I will say over here, I will say 0.us.pool.ntp.org. That I know works. Sync with... Okay. Well, maybe not. Anyway, I'll just say no and move forward. If you can get that to change, let me know in the comment section below, and hopefully somebody else will be able to take advantage of your commentary. But so yeah, now we're at the point where it goes into the obnoxiously long install process, which regardless of what I've installed ISE on, it always takes freaking forever. So yeah, I've had my battles with ISE if you can't tell, and that's okay though. It is what it is. It usually takes about an hour-ish with the default settings. So that might go faster if you have it on a faster server. I'm not going to upgrade my servers just to get a faster ISE install time. Not really worth my time. But at any rate, anything that happens beyond this point, I will edit out all the boring stuff. So, yeah, that's where we'll go. So I'll bring you guys back in once we're at a point where the ISE server is ready to go and we can actually log into it. Obviously, I won't be showing you an hour-long video, but you know, it is what it is. So when you see the rest of this video, I'm guessing probably 20 minutes. So obviously it'll take much longer than 20 minutes. So until it's all squared away, folks, see you in a little. Okay, so after a period of time, I don't know exactly how long it's been, I think about a half hour or so, it looks like we're good to go on that. So let's go ahead and try to ping from my PC. Let's ping 10.255.1.100, and I get a ping reply, which is an awesome first step. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, before you do anything, you want to log in. So we're typing admin and then the password. So capital P, the @ SSW0RD. And that should get you a login. And there we are. Next step is we want to verify whether or not the all the services that we need to have running are running. So we'll do show application status ISE. Now, this will take a moment or two for it to go and pull whatever information that it needs to pull. And I'm expecting to see the application server either not running or initializing, but not running. I would be really surprised if it was running already, because usually it takes a few minutes, probably like 10, for it to actually come up and be operational. But once we get that information, once the application server, application service, I should say, is operational, then and only then will you be able to go through and log into the web URL, the web page. So type in 10.255.1.100 and you'll get a web page. So as you can see, it does take a bit. This entire time I've been talking, but still showing what's going on. So, and application server not running. So we still have a little bit to go. I will bring you guys back in once this has flipped from not running to initializing to I'll bring you back in once it's at the running state, because right now the one that we're looking for is this application server. This needs to be running in order for us to do anything with it. Right now it's not at that point yet. So that's pretty much where that's at, and we'll go from there. Well, we finally have ISE completely running now. So the application server has fully come up, and at this point we're an hour and 25 minutes in. Now, obviously, you didn't have to wait around an hour and 25 minutes, but it is squared away. So there's a bunch of other things that are good to go here. We have the AD connector, the ISE indexing engine, the monitoring troubleshooting processes are running. Some stuff that's disabled, like the SXP, if you wanted to run security or tags, that's disabled. The threat-centric NAC service is disabled, and so is the PX grid and passive ID, as well as the DHCP and DNS servers are all turned off. So we'll be talking about all of these processes as we go through. I plan on doing some content here in the near future on this stuff. It's been a little while since I've touched ISE, so I'm going through a refresher right now, but that's pretty much what's going on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up Firefox, and here is my Eve image instance that I'm running. And what I will be doing is I'll be connecting the switches here to connect to ISE. So we'll be able to do all those advanced capabilities, and then I'll probably drag an ASA over here so we can do TACACS with switches, routers, and firewalls. But if we were to click here and type in, go to https://10.255.1.100. We're going to get an insecure connection because it's a self-signed certificate. We're going to say advanced, and then add exception, confirm exception, and then we should be delivered to the web page of the ISE server. And now here we'll type in admin and the password of the capital P, the @ SSW0RD, and hit the enter key. We'll probably be asked if we want to save it. We will remember that, so we don't have to remember it anymore. And after a moment or two, we should be presented with the web portal. Well, I should say we should be able to log in and all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and close this console window out because we don't need him running anymore. And it says flash is outdated. We're always going to allow and remember. Not too concerned about that. Allow. Maybe I'm just impatient, which is definitely a possibility. I'm also trying to log into it through, okay, so Chrome, it looks like it's going to work too. I'm going to log into it through Chrome real quick. And I'll save. I'll accept and close the license issues that we see here. So basically we're going to have all of the license capabilities for about 90 days. So what I'll do is I'll accept and close, so we know it's the end of February right now. We're going to go ahead and maybe later on the wireless setup, but right now we have all of this squared away, and so we're going to say do not show this again. So that's pretty much what we have to look forward to, and it looks like Chrome is pulling up as well. So we have the Chrome variation, accept and close. All that's good. Excellent. So it doesn't really matter which one I log into as long as I can log into one of them. And that is the point. So as it sits right now, we are good to go on this. I'm gonna close the Chrome window out because I don't need more windows open than I care to have. But we'll be able to take a look at how this all comes into play, because eventually we will integrate ISE with Eve. So I'll probably just shut down one of these switches, add a connection to the net, the management cloud, and which will allow the connectivity in and get it squared away from that. So that's pretty much how that comes into play. Now there's a couple little things that I wanted to do real quick while I'm here. And the first thing that I want to do here is an administration, or is it work centers? Work centers, and it is, where is it? So one of these, it's been a little while since I've been on this. administration. Oh, deployment. Here it is. So here on deployment, so the node is in standalone mode. To register other nodes, you must first edit this node and change its administration role to primary. Thank you. That's actually what we were coming here to do. We're gonna click on this and go edit, and then we were gonna come to here where it says standalone right here. We're gonna click on and say make primary. And now since we did that, now if you notice, when we do that, all of the profiling service and whatnot, all that went grayed out, and all these options went away. So there's 3 different nodes that come into play. These are referred to as, I might be crossing over 2 different theories here of personas versus operational status. Notice how administration stays grayed out. This is the only node that can do this. But it's also can be monitoring and policy service. To my knowledge, you can only have one administration node, but you can have multiple PSNs or policy service nodes, and then multiple monitoring nodes. So eventually we'll go out and we'll scale this, and we'll play around like there's multiple PSNs in the network. And so just a couple pieces here on this. If we want to enable TACACS on ISE, which is supported in ISE, the enable device admin service is what we would need to do. And then if we wanted to disable monitoring and policy service, we could do that if we want to make this an administration only. The drawback to that is if we decided to do that, we would have, or if we wanted to enable PXGrid, I'm sorry, that's 2 different things. If we wanted to disable monitoring and PSN services or the personas on this ISE node and make it administration only, we would have to join other ISE nodes to this deployment so that they could all communicate with one another. And to my knowledge, there's a certificate thing that has to go on in play where you export certificates and import certificates. So we're going to leave this alone. I'm going to go ahead and just click on save just to make it, I've made it primary, and that was the main thing that I wanted to do. So that takes a moment for it to work. But the benefit here is now that I have all these nodes rolled out, I can since I have this node rolled out, I can go down the road and I can say, you know what, I'm going to add 2 more. I can add 1 PSN and 1 monitoring and troubleshooting. So when it comes down to that later on, we'll be good to go for that. So as soon as that wants to hurry up and save, it is going to be a little slow, but that's okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So with that being said, I kind of want this to hurry up and finish being saved. But while that is working, I'll be right back. The irony, as soon as I mute myself and go off camera, it's done. Anyway, so this is done. That's pretty much everything there is that I wanted to cover. Deployment wise, if we look at the deployment, we have 1 node. If I wanted to add a node, I'd have to go in here and register an ISE node. I'd have to add that to it, and then they would, as you can see, roles. This guy here is the profiler, the whole 9 yards. From a personas perspective, we have administration, monitoring, and policy service. So I was right, it was personas. So its position in the deployment has to be, you can add additional nodes. So what we'll do is, as we add more nodes, we'll make 1 policy only and 1 monitoring only, and see how that comes into play. But that'll be down the road. I'm not going to play around with that right now because I need 1 ISE node. I really want to, because when I was first going through ISE a long time ago, probably about 6-8 months ago, probably longer than that now, probably close to a year, I did quite a bit of work on ISE and a lot of layer 2 stuff, layer 2 authentication with MAB and EAP, and stuff like that. Or, I'm sorry, 802.1x. So I want to finish that out, plus do the layer 3 authentication. I did a little bit of profiling, but I think it would be kind of cool to have the profiling set up to where we take a design like this, we scale this out a little bit, and then ISE can go out there and learn all of the network. And I also want to roll out a couple firepower nodes in this setup so I can see, okay, well, what happens if I deploy firepower with it? How does that interact? Because there's some things that I haven't played with yet. So actually, quite a few things that I haven't played with yet. So that's pretty much what's up. I want to go through and learn ISE better than I already know it, and become more comfortable with the platform. So that's pretty much what's up. ISE is operational. Until next time, guys, thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.